Roger, you're in New York, you're in Florida, you're in California, you're all over the place. Where are you today? I know you were in New York the last few days in those big, important powwows. So let's talk about the new order of the Trump campaign that I know you don't like to brag, but that you've been seminal in working towards. And then we're going to get into moving forward, the big rally that you and others are organizing for the integrity of the popular vote, and so much more.
Well, Alex, I'm actually in Florida today, where the Republican National Committee is meeting in Hollywood, Florida for 3 days as the run-up to the Republican National Convention. I am very, very excited about the big win in New York. I think it was a manifestation of the new focus of the Trump campaign. But let me be really clear. The changes made to Donald Trump's campaign were made by Donald Trump. He's the big picture man, and I am merely a supporter, as is Paul Manafort, his new convention director, and essentially the guy guiding the campaign towards the magic number of 1,237. This was a big victory in New York, and I think it shows a new technology on the part of the Trump people. I think they very skillfully overlaid Donald Trump's very effective public appearances and rallies with those congressional districts that were most competitive, and they emerged not only with a sweep, but with tricky Ted Cruz running a really poor, and I would argue embarrassing, third. So it is interesting to me that as we go forward, Pennsylvania, Delaware, Maryland, I see these as Trump country. These are places where both public and private polls show Donald Trump with strong leads, and Ted Cruz is now reduced to bragging about South Dakota and Montana. And while those are wonderful states, they're small states in the far west where I frankly think Trump is still competitive. So I don't see Ted Cruz being competitive in any of the states moving forward. California, of course, is the big enchilada. Now, in all honesty, I can tell you as someone who's experienced in 9 Republican presidential campaigns, California is too big to organize on a grassroots basis. I love grassroots activity. I'm obviously for it, but I view it as gravy. This is the ultimate media state, and it's a state where celebrity has great importance. Donald Trump is, of course, the ultimate celebrity. He has a star quality that no other candidate can match. His campaigning, as I think you have seen, Alex, has become more focused and more effective in just days since a leadership change in his campaign. So I am more bullish than ever before that he will get 1,237 votes on the first ballot. And before I stop and let you ask a question, let me say I'm also more bullish that we can shed enough light on the corrupted system to stop the steal that the party regulars have in mind in the event that Donald Trump does get 1,237 delegates.
Now, Roger Stone, again, joining us via video Skype from Florida, crisscrossing the country. He's been up there.
Trying, but I'm dealing with a iPad.
Sure, we're working on some of his Skype real quick. So taking care of that, we're going to go right back to him here in just a moment. Now, going back to Roger Stone. Roger, let me ask you this question. Obviously, you want to talk about Donald Trump. You want to talk about winning. You want to talk about the campaign. But so much of it is about the campaign, and people want to know, now that there has been a lot of leadership change, you're a team player, but just let us know why that leadership is so good. Your business partner and others basically more and more heading up the campaign. What is the real structure of the campaign? I mean, isn't it just Trump, and then he has a group of advisors he talks to, and whoever really is the head is the person that he actually listens to the most? Because I am seeing a lot more sophistication come in. That's question number one, Roger. Then number two, and this is obviously even more important, is the Republican Party really warming to him, or do they realize that it's backfiring on them, stealing these primaries, and so they're going to play possum until they get to Cleveland?
Well, let me say a couple things. First of all, unlike these career politicians that we're so used to, Donald Trump runs Donald Trump's campaign. He's his own strategist, and he decides the pace of the campaign, the message of the campaign, the campaign stops of the campaign, and those of us who support him really key off of his leadership. So this idea that he is scripted or programmed or managed or coached is really inaccurate. Now, I do think you've seen a new discipline on the candidate's part as he begins to focus on wrapping up this nomination and then taking on Hillary Clinton. At the same time, and the New York Times noted this on page 1, his presentation on primary in New York was very disciplined, where he stayed focused on jobs, trade, and immigration and terrorism as the big 4 issues that I think ultimately will sweep him to the White House. I think there is a growing recognition within the Republican Party that Trump will be the ultimate nominee. And therefore, you have, I think, some number of those in the establishment beginning to recognize that not only is he the likely nominee, but he's a more than competitive contender against the very flawed candidacy of Hillary Clinton. You may have noticed on Tuesday night when he referred to her as crooked Hillary. What politician would have the cojones to do that? He's taking her on frontally. He's calling it like it is. He is pointing out to the American people that she is desperately corrupt.
That's right. None of the other candidates will ever take on the Democrats for their corruption. Trump's willing to do it, and that's why he's ahead of her in most polls and gaining. That's why so many Democrats are announcing they're switching over to him, so many blacks and others, because the truth is people are seeing through this more and more. This is amazing. So I want to talk about how they're going to try to stop him, because obviously they're still going to try some dirty tricks. But looking at this and looking at where it's all going, back to the campaign, let me crystallize this then. You're saying Trump is his own man. Everybody knows that. He makes pretty much all the big decisions. He does have advisors to bounce things off of. But now he's got more of a seasoned team that can carry out his wishes and his master plan better. He has a more complete support group to be more disciplined. Is that what you're saying?
Well, and beyond that, he has a newer level of competence. Look, Donald Trump sets the pace in his own campaign. He has from the beginning, and I think it's what the American people are finding refreshing and interesting about his candidacy. The fact that he isn't scripted, that he's not reading off a teleprompter, that he's not operating off of polling or sophisticated focus groups that tell him what he needs to say in order to be popular.
He's operating off his gut, dead reckoning, and his own moral compass.
Exactly right. But now, when he gives an instruction, he has competent people to carry it out. And I think it was demonstrated in the victory.
So he's the field marshal, but he's got some more competent generals.
That's a fair way to put it. I'm very optimistic, for example, about Pennsylvania. Now, Alex, Pennsylvania has an extremely convoluted delegate selection process. It, in essence, has what amounts to a beauty contest and a delegate contest on the same day. Therefore, people who want to vote for Trump delegates need to know who the Trump delegates are, because it's not clearly indicated on the ballot. That is a massive communications challenge. I do think that there is growing sophistication now on the Trump campaign in Pennsylvania. Jim Schultz, former top assistant to the last Republican governor, David Urban, longtime assistant in the U.S. Senate, 2 of the most knowledgeable guys in Pennsylvania, people who know the county chairman, people who know the dynamics.
So he's got the experts he needs. So I've seen Fox and CNN now go to the point of saying, okay, it looks like Trump will probably get the 1236, 1237. So you've predicted everything with almost complete accuracy. It's scary, Roger. Usually folks put some spin on things. I mean, you just put it out so dry, so accurate. So inside baseball here, because the troops want to know, what do we have to worry about? How will the empire strike back? I'm looking what some big, huge scandals they bring out. right before the week before the convention, and then say, for conscience, the delegates are going against Trump or something like that. What are the dirty tricks we've got to look out for?
Well, you've already seen some of this today in planted stories in Politico, making the case that some of those who are volunteers, by the way, in the reordered Trump campaign have worked as lobbyists, some of them as long ago as 20 and 30 years ago. Extraneous. They don't run Trump, Trump runs them. And Trump is his own man. And he has no fear of taking on the Republican establishment and challenging the Bush, Clinton, Bush, Obama orthodoxy when it comes to our fiscal situation, our trade situation, our immigration policy, or our failed interventionist foreign policy. But these attacks, trying to say that some of those now volunteering for the Trump campaign have worked in the past as lobbyists, this is the kind of disinformation that they're trying to use.
Sure, he's trying to end the lobbyist system. He's exposing it, so they claim he's that. They're also going, now his advisors are going to get him to use a teleprompter in policy. This shows he's scripted, but then they have to admit, but he said, no, I'm not going to use a teleprompter. I mean, they are just spinning everything.
Yeah, it's mostly extraneous inside baseball. Let's cut to the bottom line. Alex, I'm going to say it again. There will be no second ballot. Donald Trump will achieve 1,237 votes on the first ballot. It's then, once he has that locked up, but prior to the vote, that we have to look for the big steal. And I've outlined on Breitbart and at Infowars.com exactly how this will work. Either in the Rules Committee or the Credentials Committee, the Cruz, Bush, Romney cabal will attempt to unseat Trump delegates to undermine his majority. And then they will seek to stop those delegates from voting on their own fate before the entire convention when they ratify the big steal. That's why I have been so insistent that it's important that Trump supporters reach their duly elected delegates, particularly their Trump delegates, and ask them to take a voluntary pledge to support Donald Trump on all ballots.
That's a canvassing.
What's that achieve? It sheds light on who the rats are. It sheds light on who are the Trojan horses, the Quislings, the hacks who have been inserted into
That's
Trump.
right. We've got to investigate the so-called Trump delegates because we know they're infiltrating their people, and the media acts like that's evil for us to engage in First Amendment activities. That's our civic duty.
Well, and they try falsely to imply that we've advocated violence against these people. What we've advocated is outing them, exposing them as betraying the Democratic.
That's right. Stay there, Roger Stone. We're coming right back to talk about Ted Cruz. I want to get into that, and also want to talk about the rally coming up to defend free speech. It's amazing, folks, what's happening. This is an incredible time to be alive. Roger Stone of StoneZone.com is our guest. I cannot tell you how important this guy is right now in this election and integrity he has. Banned on a whole bunch of TV networks, CNN, MSNBC, and he was talking about how he has great Skype except when he does interviews with me and some other big shows. And I said, listen, we've had him breaking our computers, all of it. And he goes, oh, yeah, my wife she came in and they were remote accessing in her records. He could see the person going into her computer. Folks, if you don't think they're doing it to the Trump campaign, you're crazy, and to key advisors. So retell that story to the audience, sir. Let's get into Ted Cruz. Phyllis Schlafly was on yesterday, said no, that Cruz is using her list. They've confirmed that suddenly Cruz has her list. If that's confirmed, that's a felony. I mean, really, Cruz is, all the stops are being pulled out. So tell us about your computers, and then let's get into the Cruz situation, sir.
Sure. Look, I understand, Alex, that some on the left are going to say, oh, these conspiracy theorists they're so paranoid. But the truth is, I have a very heavy-duty IT guy who works with me. There is no question whatsoever that my own computer system and those of others in my family have been penetrated. Fortunately, we've been very careful not to put anything terribly confidential there that could be used. But the establishment will pull out all stops. Folks like David Brock at Media Matters for America, like his mentors, the Clintons, the law means nothing to them. They will use any means necessary to subvert the democratic process. I think we know that based on the long history of crimes by the Clintons and their cronies. So I think we have to assume that all our communications are penetrated. Doesn't matter. We tell the truth. I think Ted Cruz attacking me on the networks by name, and then particularly CNN, not affording me a fair opportunity to respond, that's journalistically unethical. That's journalistic malpractice.
It's the essence of tyranny.
Polite email to Carrie Pritchard, who is the producer for Anderson Cooper, who was the host of 2 different programs where Ted Cruz falsely accused me on air. I don't even get a polite response. That's the arrogance of the mainstream media. Bottom line, CNN is not a news organization. It's a left-wing advocacy group. They do not even bow to the niceties of journalistic ethics. They are prepared to do whatever it takes to subvert the nomination process, to distort the truth, and to try to set the stage for a hijacking of this nomination from Donald Trump.
Cruz is not a happy camper, though. Even Hannity blew up at him and said, "Stop saying you're winning grassroots landslides. You've been winning canceled elections." I think this blew up in their face spectacularly.
Well, and particularly that exchange with Sean Hannity the other night, in which Hannity asked him a perfectly appropriate question, which I think is on the minds of Sean's viewers and listeners, and Cruz blew up at him, proving once again that Tricky Ted does not have the temperament to be president of the United States. This guy is a pathological liar. He lies about me. He lies about the sweetheart secret Wall Street loans from Goldman Sachs that have financed his political ascendancy. He lies about planting a story at CNN that Dr. Ben Carson was getting out of the race hours before the Iowa caucuses, and then contacting a pre-identified list of Carson supporters in Iowa to
Let me ask you this as we go to break. We'll come back and do 5 more minutes, sir. Roger Stone, our guest, StoneZone.com. Does he have any ideology from your intel, or is he a complete sociopath / Count Dracula psychopath?
Got to be very, very tough to go through life and not be able to fart without the approval of Jeb, Neil, Bush, and Mitt Romney. That's got to be very tough on Ted.
So he's a robot. We'll be right back. Stay with us. All right, the Skype went out, but Roger Stone is back with us on phone. So rushing through what you were trying to say and then getting into how we stop the big steal and the rally in Cleveland for free speech and the right of voters. Roger Stone.
So continuing, look, I think Ted Cruz is an increasingly cornered man. I think he recognizes that it's now mathematically impossible for him to be nominated. There will not be a second ballot. I say it yet again. And therefore, all these scenarios that the mainstream Republicans and the establishment are trying to lay out are not going to come to pass. I'm very excited about the Stop the Steal rally. If you want details, you can go to stopthesteal.org. We are now being co-sponsored. We are co-sponsors with Citizens for Trump, the largest grassroots pro-Trump organization in the country, and also WeWillWalk.com. Some patriots there, longtime supporters of Pat Buchanan, who have built yet another grassroots organization. 45,000 people have now signed a petition saying that if the nomination is stolen from Donald Trump, they will walk. Alex, I know you're going to be speaking. I intend to speak. There's an entire headliner group being put together. And again, this is a nonviolent, peaceful demonstration. What we want to show the world are numbers. Patriots coming from all over the country to peacefully demonstrate in favor of the democratic process, in favor of the voters deciding who this nominee should be. So there will be a march and a rally with the proper permitting from the city of Cleveland, with the cooperation of local law enforcement who we are in touch with. Unlike MoveOn.org, unlike Black Lives Matter, we cooperate with local law enforcement so that we can have a major impact with a peaceful demonstration. And if my email is any indication, There are thousands of Americans coming to Cleveland.
There's going to be tens of thousands. This has to be the biggest thing ever. And I'm not attacking Glenn Beck, but he would make this all about him. You invited me to be an absolutely key part of it. My listeners are a key part. But I'm just there as this is all about everybody's free speech and our vote. This is not about Roger Stone. It's not even about Donald Trump at the end of the day. It's about free and open elections in this country.
Well, and what I'm hoping, and this, of course, would be subject to the Secret Service and to Donald Trump's security. But if we can prove that we are multitudes and that we are peaceful and that we are nonviolent, I'm hoping Donald Trump will decide to come outside the hall and address us. That would be the greatest honor yet.
That would be absolutely huge and wonderful. And obviously, Trump supporters are peaceful. We're patriots. It's going to be the other side that'll try stuff. But the fact is the police absolutely know the game that's going on, and we're going to have the police on the side of free speech.
Well, and I think this is the key thing. If your listeners cannot get to Cleveland, then go to stopthesteal.org. Help us pay for buses to get others who can go into town. Help us find inexpensive housing where they can bunk. Obviously, the Republican National Committee is in total control of every hotel within a 100-mile radius.